Hey, so I read 30 something books this year, and I'm going to rank all of them except for the rereads because some of them were amazing, phenomenal, 10 out of 10, and others were not. I actually can't believe that a Tessa Bailey book is last on this list. I love Tessa Bailey, so it hurts me to say it, but my least favorite book of the year was The Au Pair Affair. It's another hockey romance. Those are huge. We know them. We might love them. And for reasons I don't remember, basically Burgess, he's a big famous hockey player, really like aggressive. He invites this girl to come live with him and be the nanny to his like 12-year-old who likes her but also wants her parents to get back together. But of course, like sparks fly between the nanny and the hockey player. And it didn't click for me. It didn't work. And let me say, the main character in this has the most batshit backstory I've ever read in a fluffy, smutty romance novel. It was insane. I was driving my car and she was telling the love interest about it, and I thought I was gonna have to pull over. I literally just driving along and was like, it's insane. I can't. I was talking to someone I work with about it who really liked the book, and she didn't even remember that this happened. She like blocked it out because it's so off the rails. And then like it kind of is addressed throughout, but considering how traumatic this thing is, like it is insane. I don't do you know, I'm gonna tell you. Basically, her ex-boyfriend like stalked her and then kidnapped her and then went to jail for kidnapping her for multiple days, and then he was murdered in prison. The steamy scenes were just also not my cup of tea. Like, I don't know, they weren't really sexy to me. Like I wasn't amused. I was like, hey, let's skip over this. But yeah, they just weren't my thing. That's fine. Characters from a book higher up on this list show up in this, and that was actually one of my favorite parts whenever they came along. So that was my favorite part of the book, but overall, the Au Pair Affair, I wanted to like it, but I didn't. Okay, next is Lovelight Farms. It is Christmas, it is fake dating, but not fake dating. I like it when it's like kind of strangers or acquaintances to fake dating to lovers or enemies, rivals. Friends to fake dating to lovers is kind of like mid for me. So not off to a great start with that. Basically, the main character runs a Christmas tree farm and she's trying to pitch it to a magazine to win a contest as like a romantic destination, and she wants to make it seem like she has this romance in her life to kind of add to the story, which obviously backfires later on. This book's biggest crime is that the main character's name is Stella and the love interest calls her Lala, and it's so annoying. Like, if I liked a man and he called me Lala, isn't that the name of a thingamabob? That's the name of a Teletubby. The main character is fine until she's not, and then she's insufferable, which is not what I want. Like, what is legitimately probably the second or third last chapter, minor spoilers, she says after they sleep together that she doesn't want to be friends with Benefits, and they obviously are in love with each other, so he agrees. And then she's kind of like, no, but I also don't want to be in a relationship with you. He's devastated because they've just spent a whole night like sleeping together and like they are clearly in love. And she's kind of like, oh, I want to see where the week of like fake dating took us. So obviously he's mad because she just double used him for the article and to sleep with him. She calls him a one-night stand. I don't think I've ever turned on a main character so fast. In like the span of 2 pages, I was like, I'm done with her. I do not want this man to end up with her. He has to move out of this town and never speak to her again. She was so insensitive and disrespectful, all in the name of like, I don't want to ruin the friendship, sort of. And I'm like, you're not. But it's all a miscommunication and they get back together in like the next chapter, so nothing matters. I'm looking at my list and I'm actually kind of shocked that I ranked this so low. But next up is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, which I know is like such a hit. I honestly just don't really like books set in high school anymore. It takes a really good one to make me like it, but that's a personal preference. And generally, I found it kind of forgettable for me. Like, I understand and I see the hype, but it was just kind of whatever to me. I did like that it wasn't super predictable, but yeah, like, well done mystery, just didn't change my life. Next we have The Diapause by Andrew Forbes. I actually got to read this early for an acquisitions course in school this summer. It's like a small Canadian book. It's a speculative fiction that's coming of age, but like across like 40, 50 years. So very interesting from that. I liked the time jumps and stuff. I did find like the pacing was off in some of them. Like, some chapters and parts made me like have a lot of questions, made me want more, whereas some of them I was like, okay, this is dragging, can we get on with it? Reading this for school, I wasn't sure how it was gonna go, but it was pretty decent. I don't love reading about COVID that much, just because, you know, I still think we're in the fallout and there's not a ton of perspective to be had on it, especially in speculative fiction. It's more so that COVID lockdown and being in proximity with your family and just kind of how everyone was changing and stressed out and it was a hard time for everyone, that caused something major to happen in his life, that you see the fallout and the trickle down of those events, if that makes sense. Overall, if you're into speculative fiction, give this a go. Not a favorite book, obviously, but it was decent. Okay, Wildfire by Hannah Grace is another hockey romance. It's about these two that have a one-night stand and then don't speak to each other and then end up being counselors at the same summer camp where relationships are off limits, but obviously they still have chemistry, they fall for each other, and this was pretty cute. The characters were solid, like the backstories explained their avoidance and their commitment issues pretty well. I just thought it was like pretty good, pretty fine, not bad, not annoying like Icebreaker was a little bit. So yeah, I'm gonna give Icebreaker another whirl. Maybe I was too harsh on it. And then I want to read the next book in this series because I'm curious to see what else Hannah Grace is cooking up. I read The Mistletoe Motive so long ago that my memory is honestly kind of fuzzy, but I remember liking it. Like, it's cute, it's Christmassy, and it has a lot of good things going for it, like rivals to lovers, nice, like, endearing characters. They work in a bookstore, which is cute. So yeah, I think the author had a vision and it was executed really well. Okay, I have a lot to say about Spare by Prince Harry. I love I love Princess Diana. As the grandchild of British Indian people, it is just like my birthright to have an interest in the royal family. I was going through a photo album once and there was a photo of Princess Diana like next to my family. Why? I don't know. Princess Diana is just that girl, and Harry is her son. Honestly, this was a wild ride, and if you want to read it, I highly recommend the audiobook because it's very entertaining. It is long. This is a commitment, but it is worth it in my opinion. And yeah, it was just off the rails. It was great. Honestly, this could probably go higher than the 3 above it, but I'm gonna keep it here. That's what my gut told me to do. Like, we start off strong. I was gagged when the title of this book was announced. Like, I don't know if it was Harry's idea or if it was the publisher, but they ate. I do want to read a quote that had me so shocked. I tell everyone about it, and hearing it in the audiobook was so much better. Here's Harry talking about William. I really looked at him, maybe for the first time since we were boys. I took it all in, his familiar scowl that had always been his default in dealing with me, his alarming baldness, more advanced than my own, his famous resemblance to Mummy, which was fading with time, with age. Just say you hate him. What? Oh, I have another quote. I should have done a whole video on this. He's talking about his dad. Pa nodding, tapping his feet. If you want my future, forget my past. If you want to get with me, better make it fast. In the most dead serious voice. It was beautiful. Okay, I have another quote, kind of out of context, but I think a teacher was shocked that he didn't know much about monarchy or British history. And the teacher said, I cannot fathom it, Wales. We're talking about your blood relatives. Does that mean nothing to you? and he said, "Less than nothing, sir." It's very much giving Harry Potter. There's no need to call me Sir Professor. An icon. On a serious note, if you are at all interested in the royal family, in Meghan, in Diana, in anything in that bubble, I honestly think this is worth at least a skim for chapters that like really might catch your eye, because I learned so much, and there's so much context and so much horribleness that has been going on in this man's life forever. And it's honestly really sad to hear the way he has talked about having to like repress his trauma, and the fact that for so long he was in so much denial about things that he was like, oh, my mom's just missing. Like, she's gone missing. She's in hiding. Like, I will see her again one day. Like, it's all just too much for her right now. It is devastating. And then seeing the same thing like happen to him and his wife later on, you know, this really like hard family, the press being all over them. It is really sad. And I'm just so glad that Harry and Meghan seem to be living their best little lives in their farmhouse now, because they deserve it. This might be a hot take, but I did not like Get a Life Chloe Brown. Maybe don't love is the right word, because I haven't written off the rest of the series, but I also have like no interest. It's very low on my list of books I want to read. I don't know what it was. Like, I love the premise. The characters were like perfectly fine, if not good. I do hate a third act breakup. It just feels sloppy, and I think throws off the pacing of the whole book. Like, it is one of my least favorite tropes in movies or in books. I honestly think it derails things, and we need to put a stop to it. I just found myself kind of bored with it. I just kept hoping like things were gonna happen to make me like it more, and it never did. So yeah, I'll give the rest of the series a go, maybe one day, but I was really disappointed that this didn't hit for me. Canadian Boyfriend by Jenny Holiday is the better version of The Au Pair Affair, because the plots are basically identical. Hockey player, single dad. This one's a widow though, he's not divorced. There's an adult woman who clicks with his daughter, and does she live with them? I don't remember, but she becomes a nanny, babysitter, adjacent type of thing. And the daughter really loves her. And then of course, the hockey player, the dad falls in love with her, and it was cute. Love interest is way more likable. I just felt like he was nicer. I like a grumpy love interest, but something about Burgess in The Au Pair Affair was just like, ugh, to me. Like I really didn't like him that much. Their love story just feels like a really nice, natural progression. And the whole thing, why it's called Canadian Boyfriend, is because she made up a Canadian boyfriend who was a hockey player to tell everyone at school about. And then in her adult life, this Canadian hockey player shows up out of the blue, and it's kind of like that teenage dream come to life, which I just think was like a super cute idea for a book. Okay, fangirl down, I know. People were mad. People were up in arms. What's sexy about golfing? Yada, yada, yada. Let me tell you, it's not about the golfing. It's not the point. He's a little grumpy. He's passionate. He's ticking all the boxes. Yes, he is a pro golfer, and that feels kind of random, but the main character, Josephine, she also, like, she loves golf. That's her thing. So I think it's nice that that's the thing they have in common, that they're really passionate about golf. I don't read hockey romances because hockey is like an inherently sexy sport. Like, I don't know, I think being good at something, and like that is the attractive part of these books. Like the fact that they're like famous and like the best of the best, I think is what's appealing. Because you know what, I don't know a thing about golfing, but sure, they're just two people falling in love and working together to better their lives, and he happens to be a golf player and she happens to be a golf fan. Like many books this low down, The Pumpkin Spice Cafe did not change my life, but it was cute and it was cozy, and the rest of the books in the series will be seeing me come next holiday season, and that's all I have to say. It was cute, and I really liked both of the main characters, so that's a win. Unfortunately Yours by Tessa Bailey. Don't ask me how, but I don't remember a lot of the ins and outs of the plot of this book, but I remember how it made me feel, and that is good. I love the main character. I love the winery setting. I love a relationship of convenience, or marriage of convenience in this book, which goes kind of crazy, but like it was a hit. I remember liking the banter that the main characters had. I love the side characters. So honestly, I kind of want to reread this one so I can remember more of it. I think it was just like too quick for me. I think I sped through it and just my head was not in the game. But yeah, this is super cute and two great characters. So of all the Tessa Baileys, we're getting back up there. The Final Girl Support Group by Grady Hendrix is next. And this was something I'd been wanting to read for a while and I just never got around to it. And then October rolled around and I was like, okay, what's something a little scary I can read? And I chose this and it was really good. I felt like it was a little bit on the long side, but it never dragged for me at any point, and I just thought the concept of it, like the idea, was so fascinating. Nods to like old horror and slasher movies was one of my favorite parts. I am a book girl, but I'm also a movie girl, so I really liked all of those little references. Just super interesting twists and turns, a really interesting main character that we follow, and yeah, it was well written, and if you're looking for something a little spooky, then give this a go. Okay, Secretly Yours is the first part to Unfortunately Yours, and it's like marginally better. Like they are both very good, fun, romantic, smutty novels, and yeah, it's kind of a toss-up. I honestly wonder if I reread Unfortunately Yours if I would swap these two, but you can't go wrong with either of them. The main character is just such a blast. She's so much fun, she's so bright, she's so cheerful, but it's never like obnoxious or fake. She's just a really nice protagonist to get to follow. And you combine that with a grumpy professor. Sign me up. I will eat up the grumpy sunshine trope any day, and it was executed so well. That's what Tessa Bailey really always gets right. Any grumpy sunshine sort of dynamic, she knows what's up. The steamy scenes were also good. They weren't like cringy. Sometimes the things Tessa Bailey makes her characters say in the heat of the moment, it's a little much. It's a little weird, but these were good. These were good. Just trust me. He is just such a sucker for her. It is very much she falls first, he falls harder at its finest. Okay, The Honeymoon Crashers by Christina Lauren. This is just a short little audiobook exclusive thing, and I love The Unhoneymooners. This is the sequel to that, and it was so nice seeing Olive and Ethan. Like, this whole thing is their wedding weekend, and Olive's twin sister Amy meets someone voiced by Harry Shum Jr., by the way, from Glee. There is always a Glee cast member at the scene of the crime. Even though this book isn't a crime, don't get it twisted. It was just really nice to see Amy get a happy ending after everything that Christina Lauren has put that girl through. Yeah, super fun, enjoyable, quick listen. I know it's kind of like gloomy and winter outside, but when summer rolls around, if you're in the mood for a nice little summer listen, I cannot recommend this one enough. Okay, Severance by Ling Ma is a dystopian that takes place kind of shortly after a pandemic breaks out, but it's a very interesting pandemic where people don't turn into like Walking Dead zombies, but they do kind of turn into zombies. Like, they just kind of lose their thought process. They basically are just doing routines and stuff, but they can hardly talk. Like, they are not really conscious. They will just like put on clothes, like try to cook something. So very, very scary premise there. The protagonist had a solid voice, and I really loved the writing, albeit some weird things said in the sex scenes. I'm not gonna say them because they're actually so bizarre, but if you've read the book, you know what I'm talking about. I was like, really? We couldn't have described that in any other terms. It brought me pause and was like glaringly bad in an otherwise very good book. Overall, I liked it. If anything, it left me wanting a bit more. I feel like there's such a bigger picture here, and there was so much that could have been told, but it still felt like a complete whole finished story. So it was good. Carly Fortune did it again with This Summer Will Be Different. It probably ranks third if I'm ranking her 3 books, but like, it was still really good to be this high up on the list. I love the Canadianness of it all. She is always gonna have me in a chokehold for that reason alone. It's about this girl who kind of is like back and forth with her feelings for her best friend's brother, and then her best friend kind of gets cold feet a bit before her wedding, and she's gotta go back home to the East Coast with her, and she's trying to help her friend, but she's also struggling with these feelings for her brother. So it's very complicated. It's a little like forbidden romance, and it's very cute. There's great tension. They have chemistry for days. I love the two of them together. The friendship between Lucy, who's the main character, and Bridget, who's the sister, is also really nice. They have their own individual journeys, but they also have these ups and downs within their friendship. I just really love seeing the emphasis on friendship and how important that is going hand in hand with the love story. Before the Coffee Gets Cold is just kind of one of those books that makes you take a step back, you think about your life, and you know when you are like looking around a room and you're like, wow, every one of these people has a life, a family, a job. They're coming here from somewhere, they're going somewhere, like, and you just kind of realize how intricate like the human race is and how much is going on at all times. This is honestly the book version of that, where you're like, wow, the world is so wide. It was really impactful. I really liked it. It's about time travel, but not in a weird way. You go to this coffee shop and you can go back in time to one moment, but not a lot changes like in the present. It's not like that time travel, and you have to be back before the coffee gets cold, hence the title. It's such a sharp look into these characters' lives. You don't get a lot of time with them, but you get such an understanding of them and like their values and who they are based on the moment in time they choose to go back to. And it was just so beautiful. Do you know what this is? If Right Where You Left Me by Taylor Swift was a song, a little bit. I think that's like the song of The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, but it's also kind of the song to this book. The Woman in Me by Britney Spears. This was another audiobook I listened to this year. Britney doesn't narrate it, Michelle Williams does, and she does a great job. This is so heartbreaking and also eye-opening as someone who is old enough to remember like in real time seeing her like break down and all this. Like I was a kid, but I was old enough to like see the magazines and like hear people talking about it, and knowing what was going on behind the scenes, like her shaving her head and like hitting the car, like those were cries for help. It's so sad. Like she had no support. She was being controlled by her family. She was being given an allowance out of the money like she was making for her loved ones, and they just did not care about her. They were taking advantage of her. Like they would exaggerate about her substance abuse and stuff, and they were just making her out to be so crazy. And it's so unfortunate that things could have been so different for her if she had a better support system around her. She also does admit to a lot of her failings, and this seems like it was really just reflective and healing for her, which I think is nice. Something that I found really interesting, especially as someone who's just really interested in like Hollywood and celebrities, is the name dropping she does. It's just nuts because it's not even in like a weird way. It's just that she's been famous for so long that she's just always been surrounded by these mega stars. She mentions Ryan Gosling a couple times. There's one point where she's talking about this like really pretty older teenage girl who she saw at an audition, and then she's casually like, oh, her name was Carrie Russell, and moves on to the next paragraph. And I'm like, Brittany, what? I did not think I would be reading a John Green book in the year 2024, but I saw that the Turtles All the Way Down movie was coming out and it looked really good. So I decided to read the book, and I am so glad I did because I really enjoyed it. Like so many girls my age, I was obsessed with John Green in high school. This came out a little bit later, so I was just kind of over it by that point. And let me tell you, this is a hit. I loved Paper Towns and Will Grayson, and it's probably the recency bias and the adult brain, but I'm like, okay, wait, this might be my favorite John Green book. It's really great. I don't know what it's like to live with OCD, but the way John Green describes her compulsions and her anxieties, like it honestly just feels very thoughtful and grounded. Some authors are really weird with how they write about mental health, and I know John Green has expressed that like these are things that are close to him. So I think that is why it's done with so much so much care and so well done. The side quest, if you will, could have done a bit more for me. I just feel like it's fighting for time with Aza's personal journey and her struggle with her mental health. Like it's hard to balance two plots that massive. So I think it was done as well as it could be. Like it just could have had a bit more breathing room. I think, but that's the only critique that's really coming to my mind right now. The movie's also really good, so read the book and then watch it. I had really high expectations for Once More with Feeling by Alyssa Sussman, just because I loved Funny You Should Ask so much. And while I really liked it, don't get me wrong, I didn't like it as much, but this was still really good. It was just fun. Like, I really like books where the characters are famous or working in show business. It's a little second chance lovers thing, but also like friends to lovers to enemies to kind of friends back to lovers. So it's complicated. There's multiple timelines. There's a lot going on, but I really liked it. Alyssa Sussman just really knows how to write flawed characters that make you kind of take a step back and go like, wait, am I rooting for them? But then they bring you back around because you're like, okay, they're just humans making mistakes and they're not bad people, and they have their own little journey to go through. So this was good. I can't wait to see what she has next in store for her next book. Do not let the dance to Meghan Trainor in the opening of the TV show turn you off this book. The Perfect Couple by Ellen Hildebrand was so good and such a good summer read. I'm always into reading with the seasons, and yeah, this is a good one. It's full of twists and turns. You know, you think you know where it's going and then it goes somewhere else, and I feel like it actually took me a while to crack what was going on because I kept thinking I knew what was going on, and then a new piece of evidence would be in there and I would have to like restart my thought process. Great characters. There's so many, and they all have their own secrets, and even the ones who seem like super amazing people, like they have something going on. So it was really good, and like everyone's a suspect, one of those type of things, and I love this type of books, so this one is good. Okay, hook, line, and sinker. I really had a Tessa Bailey year. I was going nuts. I loved It Happened One Summer. That's probably my favorite Tessa Bailey book, and this is the follow-up. It's about Hannah, who's the younger Bellinger sister, and it's about her falling in love with her close friend, Fox, who is another one of the fishermen. I was rooting for these two hard in It Happened One Summer, so I'm so glad that Miss Tessa Bailey blessed us with a whole book for them. It's just some good stuff, like friends to lovers, girl who doesn't want to give the playboy the time of day. He's absolutely smitten with her and like willing to leave his single life behind him. Like, it's so good. He has so much character development that he needs, and it's so refreshing to see the male character go through all that, because you don't always get that in romance novels. Sometimes they're immediately perfect. They don't have to work on anything, or sometimes they're acting like a fool and then it's never addressed. So I'm glad that he takes accountability. This was just a really good farewell to the Bellinger sisters and their love stories, and I'm gonna miss them. I've read In a Holidays in one sitting on a plane. I was on the way back from the Eras tour, feeling sad, and it cheered me right up. It was just so much fun. It's kind of like Groundhog Day, if Groundhog Day was a Christmas romance and the protagonist was a 20-something-year-old girl. Childhood friends to lovers will always do it for me. The love interest had me like, you know, kicking my feet, twirling my hair, all that jazz. The love story just felt so real and believable if we ignore like the fantasy time loop of it all. And honestly, the time loop stopped a lot earlier in the book than I was expecting. I felt like there was a bit more room to play around with it. I see how it could have gotten tiring, but I honestly think like one more cycle through the time loop would have helped with the pacing of the book, because it really felt like the back half, when things were on their way to being figured out, was longer than the crazy time loop stuff. It was just super wholesome and sweet, and definitely one of my new favorite Christmas reads. Clara and the Sun was lovely and very interesting and introspective, especially in this age of AI and robots, and honestly like a lot of weirdness around socialization these days, but that's a conversation for another day. It's a world similar to ours, but a world where the kids don't go to school, and most kids, instead of having friends, they all have like robot companions. And it's so strange because that's so dystopian, but it feels like so grounded. Like it feels like it's just a slightly alternate reality of the world we know and live in. It started slow, but once it picked up, it was really great. Clara, even though she's an AI, like it's through her perspective. She's the narrator. She's a little unreliable because she's just a robot. And it's just interesting to see her start to experience love and grief in the limited way that she can. She's learning about the world like through this family she's brought into, so it's such a limited worldview, but to her capacity, she's learning all these like feelings and experiences, and it's just such a good way to tell a story by having the AI be the perspective you're given. I have a lot of praise for this book, and I don't quite know how to articulate it very well, but I just really, really like it, and I recommend it. I will tell everyone about it. Not enough good things can be said about Yellowface by R.F. Kuang, and it is off the rails, but in the best possible way. So darkly funny and just kind of absurd. Like you want to shake the protagonist silly every other page because she is a disaster. It's about June, who is a writer, and after her kind of frenemy from college dies, she steals her manuscript. Even though June is white, her friend who died, Athena, was Chinese, and the manuscript she steals is about the Chinese experience, and I think it's World War I. So she steals it, submits it to her publishers, and basically the book comes out and it's a huge success, but June is pretending to be Asian this whole time. Like she's made herself look ethnically ambiguous. She's changed her name, but obviously people are suspicious and she can't keep the charade up forever. So drama unfolds. It's such a funny, satirical look at social media, at the publishing industry, kind of at like diversity in arts and media as a whole. This was just such a win for me. I go around recommending it to everyone, and I don't like rereading books, but I am tempted to read it again. Okay, Lessons in Chemistry. I don't want to talk about this for too long or I'm gonna get upset, and if you've read it, you know why. I feel like everyone knows this book by now, and yes, it is as good as everyone says it is. Elizabeth, the protagonist, is just so like unflinchingly herself and unapologetic, very unwilling to change and often flawed because of it, but it's always in the name of like standing her ground, wanting to make a difference, wanting to like be a push for innovation. It has a love story for the ages, let me tell you. It was amazing. I finished this book and literally put it down and then turned on Apple TV so I could start the TV show. I needed more. Okay, my second favorite book of last year was Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. It is as good as everyone says, again, and if I think about it for too long, like I might start blushing. It was perfection. It's about this couple who, I think it's Reddit, they meet each other and decide to like break the curse of them always being the person someone dates before they find the love of their life. So they kind of have this little jokey summer romance that obviously turns into very real feelings. The main character, Emma, has such a personal journey outside of the love story, and I was worried about how it was gonna go, and then it ended perfectly. I was so proud of her. And on top of the love story, like it was amazing. The love interest, Justin, he is so sweet, so caring, and so like emotionally mature and in check, considering his life is like falling apart at the seams. Like his life is never going to be the same. I'm not going to tell you why. And he's still like so level-headed about everything when most people would be losing their minds. It has immediately sneaked into my top books, and I can't wait to read the rest because I didn't know this was a part of the series. So I'm very excited to read the rest of the series and see how all the characters came together. Also, one of the greatest quotes that I've seen in a rom-com in a long time. Here it is. "You're not asking too much. You were just asking the wrong person. Ask me instead." Okay, this is a stretch, but can anyone who has read this and also seen Grey's Anatomy let me know if they are like kind of giving Link and Joe, but in a slightly different way? Like it feels like such a stretch. I'm like kind of, but also not at all. I don't know what it is. And drum roll. Probably no one's surprised. My favorite book of 2024 was Funny Story by Emily Henry. I did a whole video talking about it, so I really don't have anything new to say. Emily Henry has never written a book I didn't absolutely devour and adore once I was done with it. The way the characters interact as they're getting to know each other, the flirting and the banter, and they're really, like, they don't seem compatible at first, and then it's not even quite opposites attract. It's just like the more they get to know each other, the more they start to fall for each other and see that they're not that different. As usual, Miles, the love interest, is top tier. I love him. He's great. This is fake dating at its finest, because they're trying to make their exes jealous, which is like that little extra spice. And I can't wait for her next book, and maybe we'll see if it tops my 2025 list. Anyways, I am sick of the sound of my own voice, so that's all I have to say for today. Thank you so much for watching. Please let me know if you liked, loved, or hated any of these books. Put your top books of the year in the comments so I can give them a whirl. I'm really overwhelmed with books, so hearing some recommendations would be really helpful. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye!